Today you'll be learning how to graph linear inequalities. Before you were doing linear equations, there'll be a couple added steps for the inequalities. We've just been solving for one variable, and now you're going to be experiencing inequalities that have two variables. So if you could write down graphing linear inequalities and go ahead and do the steps for it. So I'm just going to go through the steps verbally, and then we'll walk through some problems. So the first thing you do is to put your linear inequality into slope-intercept form. Then you plot the y-intercept just like you would when you're graphing, which is the b variable. And then 3, use your slope, which is m in that equation, the rise over run. And then 4, pick a coordinate point on one side of the line. 5, plug it into the inequality. If it makes the inequality true, shade that side. If it doesn't, shade the other side. And when you graph your line, if it's greater than or less than, you just do a dotted line because it doesn't include all those points. If it's greater than or equal to and less than or equal to, then you do a solid line because it includes those points. So let's look at a few inequalities that we can work with. So the first one that I have is 2x minus 3y is less than or equal to 12. And remember, we want to put that in slope-intercept form. So slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. Obviously, for our purposes, we're going to have an inequality sign here, but it's still the same format. So let's put it into slope-intercept form. So I'm going to subtract 2x, and now I have negative 3y is less than or equal to negative 2x plus 12. Now I want the y by itself, so I'm going to divide out that negative 3. And remember, I do it on all my terms. And so here I'm going to have a y, and remember I divided by a negative. So divide by a negative, that means my inequality sign will flip that way. And a negative is a positive, so I just leave it as 2/3 because that's going to give me a decimal, and I really want rise over run. And a positive and a negative is a negative. 12 divided by 3 is 4. Okay, we have it in slope-intercept form. And now we're going to graph it. So I'll go over here. And straight lines for me are a little hard, but oh, that was a good one. And this is my y-axis. And here's my x-axis. Oh, there goes the crazy line. Okay, so I'm going to change colors to do my graph just so it'll show up better. So I'm going to go to pink. Okay, so remember you start at your y-intercept, which is this value right here. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. I go down because it's a negative 4. Then from that point, I'm going to do my rise over my run. So I'm going to go up 2, 1, 2, over 3, 1, 2, 3. I'm going to do it again so I can get a nice line. So up 2 over 1, 2, 3. And because this has that equal to on the bottom of the inequality, I'm going to do a solid line when I do my graph. So I'm going to go like this. And you want to, with inequalities, extend your line as far as you can. Now, that other step was to pick a point on one side of the line. So if you can, pick your origin point, your 0, 0, because that's the easiest to plug into the equation. You can't pick a point on the line, but you can pick one on the left side of the line or the right side of the line. So I'm going to plug in 0, 0 into my original equation. So I have 2 times 0 minus 3 times 0 is less than or equal to 12. And then I'm going to simplify this side, so that's 0 and that's 0. So 0 is less than or equal to 12. Is that a true statement? Well, yeah, 0 is less than 12. It may not be equal, but it's less than or equal. So it is a true statement. So if it's a true statement, then you shade on the side of the point that made that statement true. So you have this point, so you're going to go I'm going to shade all of these points. The reason you shade is all of the points over here make the inequality true. So that's how you graph an inequality. Let's try one more. I'm going to go back to my blue color. Now I'm going to put it into slope-intercept form. So I'm going to add my 2x, add my 2x. That leaves me with negative 6y is greater than 2x plus 12. And then I'm going to get rid of my negative 6 by dividing it out. And remember, I divided by a negative. So that means you flip your sign. So y is less than. And I'm going to reduce this fraction. I'm just going to make it negative 1/3. And this is a negative, and it would be 2. So there's my equation in slope-intercept form, and now I'm going to graph it. So draw my line. There's my x-axis. Here's my y-axis. So I start, once again, let me change my ink color. Okay, I'm going to start at that negative 2 because that's my y-intercept. So I go down 2, put my point, and now I'm going to drop 1 over 3. Drop 1 over 3. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to go, whoops. I'm going to go again. Drop 1 over 1, 2, 3. And this one doesn't have a line under it. So that means I'm going to do a dotted line. So I just go like this because it's not going to include all those points on that line. So it looks like that. I'm sorry, it's not quite straight. Now we're going to pick a point to plug in, and because that 0, 0 isn't on the line, I'm going to plug that one in because it's easy to plug in. So I go negative 2, plug in my 0, and I'm using that original equation up at the top. This one right here. And so that's going to give me 0 is greater than 12. Is that a true statement? No, that is false. So that means I don't shade on the side of that point because that point did not make it true. So I'm going to shade this side. And now I'm done. So that's how you graph linear inequalities. When you come in on Monday, we'll work a little bit with this. If you could bring in your colored pencils, that would be great. Okay, have a good night.